So this event, which was titled Our Voices, Our Vision, was about what do we see for our community. We wanted input from the residents to tell us, how do you see your community? How would you like to see it? And how can you become engaged?
Well, I hope that it brings more awareness to our community, whereas they're understanding that they're dumping a lot of things in our community, our area, and they're not telling us what it is. Half the time, they don't know what it is.
The contamination that's on the USX site is preventing development of 500 acres. Think about that in the city of Chicago. How hard is it to find 500 acres that are empty, and we can't develop it in our community because of legacy contamination? So take a couple of things from that. First, right, what does dirty industry do to the land? It contaminates it, right? Of course. So why do we want to sit with the developer now? Because if he's going to bring something in that's going to contaminate our area more, or that's going to contaminate an area that isn't, we should say no. We should have the right to say no. We are protecting our community, we are protecting our planet. This is what we have to change, because our neighborhood will never get better. As long as we are surrounded by this stuff, it will never, mark my words, it hasn't yet, correct? We on the southeast side have been known to be dumped on with waste of all kinds, right? When the steel industry was in its heyday, it used to take the waste from the processing and making of steel and dump it here. We used to get garbage from the city of Chicago and they dumped it here. And now we're getting other things like recycling materials that are essentially garbage, but they're dumping them here while they're processing them. So we know, let's be honest, that we as people have a habit of destroying things more than we do building up things, okay? So industries that are responsible for pollution include, and people themselves, you know, you drink out of a plastic bottle, you throw that plastic bottle and it doesn't get recycled, it goes into a landfill, we are polluting. So we need people to become aware, and we need people to be engaged, because people who are engaged can have influence on the industries that normally wouldn't do the right thing.
What environment concerns do you have?
I have concerns about our food system, our water system, our air. I have concerns about our climate, and I have concerns about how we make energy and how we use energy.
My greatest worry is that I'm seeing a repeat, and it's scary, of algal gardens. I had one time in 900 acres of toxic waste dump, meaning that there was so much different stuff dumped there, such as they're dumping over in our area, so we don't know what they're dumping.
Petcoke is an interesting thing. It is a waste product from the oil refining industry. So it affects the community that it's stored in because it generates dust, and the dust pollutes the air, and the residents breathe in that air. But as far as the whole city goes, petcoke is used as a fuel. When it's burned, it creates carbon dioxide, which in turn contributes to global warming. So how does it affect Chicago? It will affect the whole planet.
I think the hidden story about petcoke is that every person who drives is contributing to the petcoke problem, because petcoke is a byproduct of something we use every day, which is gasoline and other fossil fuels.
Do you think that if they don't acknowledge this topic, with having huge effect on our environment? How do you think it's going to have a huge effect if this topic is not
Addressed.
addressed?
That more people are going to come down with different unknown diseases such as cancer.
We know that pollution does in fact affect our health, and on the southeast side, one of the high rates of asthma that we have, we suspect is correlated to the quality of air that we breathe, right? We have young children that could be potentially being affected by the manganese that's in the soil, that's a neurotoxin. So it's hard to make direct connections, but it's only common sense if there are things in our air that we should not be breathing, that they would have a health impact on our bodies.
Well, more people are going to get sick, or if they once they get sick, because some of them are already getting sick, they're going to have a harder time accessing health care. I think one of the things you have to consider with community epidemics, even if they're created by toxic exposure, is that you have a lot of people who are coming down with similar issues in a short time frame. That's a good opportunity to deliver the health care that we're capable of. Unfortunately, right now, health care in this country is for the affluent, for the employed, for the people who have good insurance. We can't all access good community health care.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to make you guys aware of, there is a whole lot of stuff going on in Chicago right now, right? Well, I'm talking about revitalization.
Yeah.
Pullman is going to be, they're pushing real hard to revitalize it. Obama Center, pushing real hard to revitalize that area. North Branch of the river, they're revitalizing those areas. The 10th Ward is only being allowed to accommodate that revitalization, because that is why they want to put those companies that handle construction waste. So when they tear up the sidewalks and put new ones, where's that concrete going to go? To us. When they tear up the streets and make new ones, where is that asphalt going to go? To us. When they tear the buildings down and they need to recycle some of that stuff, and again, we are for recycling. Please don't walk away here thinking we're not. We are. But why is our neighborhood only getting that end of the process and not the revitalization part?
Politicians could actually help tremendously because they have more power than Peggy Salazar, right? The problem is that sometimes they don't do the right thing. They're swayed by other interest groups, right? I mean, industry, business, a whole multitude of things. And then there are some politicians, you'd be surprised, who I feel aren't even educated in science enough to understand connections between ecosystems and things like that, because they're so focused on the politics and business and government, and sometimes they focus so much on that they exclude other issues.
What are some other environmental concerns that you have in your community?
About our soil, sustainability, learning how to feed themselves. More community garden.
What is the importance of these community gardens in our environment?
One thing, they're sustainable. Two, they're self-sustainable. Two, that they're organic, and that we stop poisoning ourselves by buying the food from the local markets that's contaminated with pesticides because it's coming from a farm. And understanding that none of the vegetables that we eat here are grown here.
The intent of the meeting was to make people understand the connection of their involvement with how they can have an impact on the environment as well as what's going on in their community. So I'm hoping we get a positive response. I'm hoping that the people who are in attendance will become more engaged in civic activity, because it's important to do so. And then too, that they walk away with an understanding of environment and how it's not just about tree hugging and marching and things like that, so that they themselves have a direct responsibility when it comes to that.